soif. Tu bois sans dire à tout.
What up, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. But we're having it during the day because this is obviously a free date. Because I'm not going to be here to do the regular Tuesday live stream because I'm going to be fishing.
Fun.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, I just found out recently that if you are engaged in fishing or hunting, you can conceal carry.
Yeah, you showed me that video. That was kind of. I had no idea.
Yeah, neither had I. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more people like walking around with fishing gear or in fishing pole.
Make sure you carry that law in your back pocket too.
Oh yeah. Also have like a physical copy of like the statute with you. So if a cop does cop does kind of stop you, then you can just bust it out. But yes, today is a special episode because we have a special guest with us tonight, and it is Robert's father.
That's me.
That's you. So we are going to do. We're doing Night at the Movies on Nocturnal Transmissions. Similarly, how we did it with Eric. And so we're going to be reviewing two movies tonight. One is Easy Rider, and the other is American Graffiti. And for Easy Rider, I believe it's the 50th anniversary this year, right?
Yeah.
That is.
Right. Yes, and we have Robert's father on because it's, I believe, one of your favorite movies.
Yeah, that's correct. Of the two movies I've seen, they're both my favorites.
Nice. Yeah. So
in the last few weeks, we've at least seen like 4, and so those are 4 of the 4 he's seen. Those are his 4 favorite movies. So these two, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be giving we'll have individual reviews for them, and also we'll do compare and contrast at the end. So, where would you guys like to start first? American Graffiti or Easy Rider?
We'll leave it up to the guests. Where do you want to start?
Let's do them alphabetically.
All right, sounds like a plan to me.
American Graffiti.
Okay. All right. So, American Graffiti first.
Oh, A comes before E? I would have had no idea.
It's funny. I actually have to think about it for a second. It's like,
yeah.
Which comes first?
All right, so American Graffiti it is. Andy, do you want to give us a quick synopsis of the film?
I surely will. Just give me a second. All right. A quick synopsis of the film. On the last day of summer vacation in 1962, friends Kurt, Steve, and Terry and John cruise the streets of small-town California while a mysterious disc jockey spins classic rock and roll tunes. It's the last night before their grown-up lives begin, and Steve's high school sweetheart, a hot-to-trot blonde, a bratty adolescent, and a disappearing angel in a Thunderbird provide all the excitement they can handle.
That's an that is a synopsis of the film. It's that's a very interesting synopsis. What is that from Wikipedia? Is that like the
more or less, yeah? Because I just need something really quick and simple. So I just type in. Usually when I do the synopsis, I just type in the title of the movie and I just read like the quick little blurb that's given. Usually from Wikipedia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then we can get after I give that synopsis, then we can go into the finer points of the movie.
Okay, it sounds like fun. Well, you have all the notes. My dad has like he has a lot of notes that he's written out. So I'll let him start off on some of his thoughts on American Graffiti.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for having me on tonight. It's
No problem.
a privilege. So it was released in 1974, and it's atypical cruising scene, whether it's a small town in Central California, or it was in the Valley, cruising Van Nuys Boulevard, or it was Whittier, or down in Whittier Boulevard down Whittier, Woodward Avenue. This is what kids do. We gas up the cars and we cruise. And the mysterious DJ is the Wolfman Jack. And I don't know, you guys are younger than me, obviously. The Wolfman, he really was. He was legendary. And there was enough mystery to him. You never really did know where he was broadcasting from. Mm-hmm. And the FCC wasn't real happy with him for several reasons. So he actually, in real life, had a few different stations, but towards the end, he was broadcasting just over the border in Mexico, outside of FCC reach.
Right out of the jurisdiction.
Signal up, so you could get it all much further than if you were just a regular AM radio station. And this was all AM radio. Mm-hmm. The cars were very well done. It's George Lucas's second movie. And he lived the cruise scene too. And he just thought it was a neat way to spend a night. And yeah, I did too. So you've got the whole thing is tied together with the soundtrack. And without jumping too much back and forth yet, American Graffiti, George Lucas picked the songs specifically for a scene he was shooting. And this was a very early adaptation of using existing music instead of writing a score to go with a movie. So it's great rock and roll. And they're cruising Main Street. It was actually shot in, like I said, Central California. And you've got the hard guy, Milner, cruising in his 5-window deuce coupe. Mm-hmm. You've got Alpha, the out-of-towner who comes in his 55. You've got the clean-cut Kurt, which you guys may or may not recognize as Andy Griffith. And not Andy Griffith.
Opie, and then also Richie Cunningham from Happy Days.
Yeah. And his girlfriend. And so it's, they're more interested in the scholastic aptitude. They're going off to college. Mm-hmm. Milner, he's staying there. He's going to cruise the circuit. And the burger, it's either Mel's or Burger. It's actually Mel's Burger City. So they'll alternately refer to it as Mel's or Burger City. It's the same place. And that's kind of like the center of the circuit. That's where you meet and hang out. You set up your drag races and whatever. So that's the homing station that they all go back to, and they're all listening to the Wolfman Jack. So it's a central theme through each car and each character. And it's just what the mischief they get into cruising. And it is very much based on what we did. You'd spend an hour going 5 city blocks on Van Nuys Boulevard. It was from Bob's Big Boy down at Magnolia up to Bob's Big Boy at Roscoe. And you turn around and you do it again. On Whittier Boulevard, it was east of the 605 freeway out to like the shopping mall. And you turn around and you do it again. And it's a neat, innocent look at what's going on. And then you've got, besides the guys racing, you've got the hoodlums, the pharaohs, if you will, by Bo Hopkins. All these no-name characters: Candy Clark, Mackenzie Phillips, Wolfman Jack, Bo Hopkins, Harrison Ford, Johnny Weissmuller Jr., Suzanne Summers, Kay Lenz, Deborah Lee Scott, and those other guys: Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss, Cindy Williams, Charlie Martin Smith, and Paul Lamont. And they're having a night, cruising the boulevard and listening to the radio. Kurt is without a girlfriend, and he meets Suzanne Summers, which is the mysterious girl in the white 56 T-Bird. I'm not a Ford guy. And yeah, 56. And had the smaller bumpers, but the portholes. And so I don't know. You want to go into it? It's a great soundtrack.
Well,
on vinyl.
He has the American Graffiti soundtrack. The something that I thought is kind of interesting about the film is even just how it got made to begin with, which was pretty interesting because I watched kind of the behind the scenes and how it all came together. And this was, as my dad mentioned, it's George Lucas's second film after his first one was THX 1138.
Right.
And then this one, he had been working on the screenplay for this movie for quite a while, and he couldn't quite get the money to get it done, and trying to finally got funding to get the screenplay done, and it just having a hard time getting it together, and it did eventually get to that point, but they didn't. The studios wanted a big name attached to it, and looking back, you're like, what do you mean there was no big names? But guys like Ron Howard, like he was kind of on kind of the downswing of his career. He had been in Andy Griffith before this, and it's like he's much older, and he's trying to go to film school because he wants to be a director. Richard Dreyfuss was a no-name. Harrison Ford was out of acting before this. He was a carpenter at the time, and this is the movie that actually jump-started his career. To being an A-lister, but all these actors were, we are well known and talented, but this is really where this kind of jump-started their fame. And so the big name they got attached to it was George Lucas got in contact with Francis Ford Coppola, who just had finished doing The Godfather. And
I saw that he was a producer.
Yeah, he's like, well, how about I have Francis Ford Coppola? Is that a big enough name for you? It's like, that works for us. And so, and since it was, they filmed this movie within like 30 days, and the initial town that they were gonna be starting off in ended up, dumping their contract and saying, yeah, we don't want you here, essentially.
One night of filming.
Yeah, after one night of filming, they dumped the contract, and they had to scramble to find another town that would take them on. And they moved, I think it was like 50 miles down the road or something like that, to another small California town. And they were essentially working 30 nights, and it was, so just to get the film made was pretty hectic. And the other thing about that is, it does have a very natural feeling to it. Like, it's like, wow, this is, if I was living in this time, this is kind of what we would be doing, just getting up to hijinks and driving around, having fun, spending time with your friends, girlfriends, what have you. And there, like I said, it has this natural quality to it, and the reasoning behind that is that George Lucas was so meticulous in the way that he was filming it, where he would do like a bunch of takes, and he would choose the worst one. It's like to make it. One of the famous scenes is with Toad. Is when he's out with the blonde lady, the blonde girl. Yeah, thank you. And he's trying to get booze, so they can go have fun. And he finally gives money to this guy and he's like, hey, can you think you buy me a bottle of Old Harper's? And he's like, yeah, sure, kid. And he comes out running out, and he robbed the liquor store and then threw the bottle of bourbon at him. And I think they did like 20 takes of that scene, and he caught it. He's like, oh, he caught it too perfectly. And it was like the last one where he nearly dropped the bottle. That's the one that that's George Lucas chose. Because a guy like Toad's not gonna catch it perfectly. He's a nerd. He's kind of clumsy, and so of course he's gonna like mess it up. So that was the one that they chose.
A lot of instances like that throughout the movie to keep that non-film feel to it. Right then, well, before he actually scores the booze, he buys a comb and some beef jerky and stuff, and he walks up to the car and he's talking to Candy Clark, and she muffs her line. She flubs, did you get it? And she wanted to redo it, and George goes, no, that's perfect, we'll keep it. And it still bugs her. She goes, here it comes, they're gonna muff my line. There's another scene where Paul Amad is cruising with Mackenzie Phillips, and they pull up to the girls in the Cadillac, and they throw a water balloon. And they had told Mackenzie Phillips it's going to go right past Paul Amad, it's going to bounce and break off the glass, and you'll get wet in the face. One take, they threw it, hit her square in the face, and she's supposed to be mad, but she knew it was a flub, and she started laughing. They thought they just rolled with it, and it wound up, that was the take.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of scenes like that, like Robert mentioned, it was too polished. Milner goes and uncorks the headers. He's coming out to race Falfa. And as he exits the shop, he actually nails the corner of the curb at the gas island. He didn't mean to. They kept it. They go, no, man. And he claims, I'm sitting down in this car. I got cameras. I can't see where I'm going. I run over the curb, and you guys want to keep it? Yeah, that's perfect.
Well, I think that's one of the things that really caught my attention about this movie, and how seemingly I mean it wasn't like perfect, but it was very believable, like the reactions, or the kind of like the subtle like the quote unquote mistakes that they made, but then ended up being like the perfect effect for that shot.
Yeah,
I didn't know that it was, I didn't know that those were like the kind of the bad takes, as it were.
Deliberate, yeah.
Well, and that scene. Oh yeah.
The opening scene where Toad's riding a Vespa GS scooter.
Oh yeah, and he runs into
crashes into the. He's just supposed to. Lucas just says, "Come in, make it look good," and he was gonna park the bike. Well, he goes to let the clutch out, and it just stalled the motorcycle, and instead of just lurching to a stall, it takes off and runs into the trash can. Yeah.
Well, in the fight, and he says and he hurt himself, and he's like stumbling around for a few minutes, and but the cameras kept rolling.
Yeah. It was, and that's what kept it. There's been other movies about cruising, the loss of innocence, and let's face it, you're trolling, you're picking up chicks, you don't hit the perfect line each and every time. You muffle, and that's what makes it feel so good, so right,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's throughout the movie, and the cars in it are just So, period correct. Neat little point of reference. The license plate on Milner's Deuce Coupe is THX 138.
Oh,
In
yeah.
tribute to his first movie,
Mm-hmm.
THX 1138, and 1138 is actually the room number for film school or his dorm. There's actually some even reference to the significance of 138 to him. And I apologize for not knowing the whole story. George and I haven't talked in quite a while. I was talking to him the other day on the TV, but unlike you guys, he didn't talk back.
Yeah. The other thing that was also interesting too is I forget what I think it was where Kurt and the Pharaohs are kind of playing that prank on the cop car that stuck out the axle. At the movie theater that's right by there, the movie that's playing is actually Francis Ford Coppola's first film that would have been playing at that time. As far as the period,
actually, it hadn't been released yet. In 1962, that movie wouldn't have been released yet.
Oh, okay, but it was paying homage to Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah. So that car scene, it's a Jerry's Cherries used car lot, and the Pharaohs, Bo Hopkins and the other guys, I forget all their names. They're cruising around in a chopped and channeled 51 Merc, I think it is. I should know these cars. And they're not sure if Kurt can make it as a Pharaoh. And he goes, I got an idea. I got a good idea. So they sneak up behind the car lot, and he just happens to have about 50 feet of chain because Ants has been threatening to tie Kurt behind the car and drag him. And what they do instead is they get Kurt, who's, all the guys are dressed in black with their car club jackets and stuff. Kurt's in, khaki pants and a plaid shirt. Couldn't look any more 60 square feet. He takes the cable, he climbs up, he slips it around the rear axle, leaves lots of slack in it, he ties it off to the light pole. Then the Pharaohs turn around the corner, and I realize you can't see where my hands are. As they're driving down Main Street, they lean out the window. Here's one for, get ready for justice. And so the cops drop it in gear, turn on the lights, come flying out of the driveway, and just then they take all the slack out. Boom! Yanks the rear end out from under the car. Wholesome fun. Should we take this in chronological order as we go through the movie, or can we just hit high points?
I think the interesting part about American Graffiti is because you have essentially 4 or 5 different stories that are happening simultaneously. So it's more of like you're talking more about the characters and like what they're doing. You have because you have Kurt, who's Kurt and Ron Howard's character. Yeah,
Steve.
They're going. They're supposed to be leaving for college, the next day. So they're kind of just like living out their last day of summer, and Kurt is having kind of the existential crisis and whether he should stay in the town or go. And Kurt has his own kind of crazy adventures on his own, trying to figure out his life. You have Ron Howard, like him and Cindy Williams, they're trying to figure out their relationship and where they want to go, and should we stay together, should we not? Then you have Milner, and he's already stayed. He's the guy that stayed behind in the town and is stuck. And I don't know if he's like bored or like just kind of like, well, I've beaten everybody. Like there's no one else to race, and
he's a juvenile delinquent.
Yeah, exactly. But then you have the him and Mackenzie Phillips. Those two together it was such a great pairing of characters because it just they contrasted each other so well.
Right.
Can we talk about how Mackenzie Phillip gets hooked up with Paul Le Mat?
Oh yeah, that's a good. Yeah, we should do that.
So they're cruising, and as would happen, the girls pull up in a Studebaker, and well, first they talk to the girls in the Studebaker, and Paul's going, "Hey, you want to go for a ride with me? I'm harmless as a kitten." The girl, "Oh, I can't. I'm going with the guy in JC," and he goes, "Well, he's not here." So they take off, and they go, "Wait, well, Judy's sister can go." And so, okay, so they pull up to the light. Mackenzie Phillips gets out, who's 12 years old when she shot this. And she hops in the car, and Milner's just going, "Oh," I think he actually says, "Shit, this is a joke, right?" Here she is. She's out for a night. She's getting a ride in this Boss 5-window coupe, and all of a sudden he's going, "No." And her innocence and sense of adventure, coupled with his embarrassment of having this 12-year-old in the car, but it's a strained, tenuous relationship they develop during the night. It's kind of tender, it is, and they have fun. So then they meet the girls in the Cadillac, and that's who throws the water balloon on them. And Mackenzie Phillips, Carol was her name, has a can of shaving cream because they had been out playing the night before. So they jump out at the next light and they vandalize the Cadillac at the light. And she just starts spraying shaving cream on the windows. Well, if you guys have used a can of shaving cream, that's way more than one can of shaving cream. They actually used three. And they were having a ball doing it. And they're jumping over the car and they're letting the air out of the tires. And you see the girls inside the car screaming and in terror. And the electric windows going up slow and stuff. And they had to tell Paul Le Mat, Milner, "Hey, take it easy. The girl who owns the car is actually in the car, and you kind of damaged it when you ran across the trunk lid to get to the other side." They used about 3 cans of shaving cream in that scene.
Yeah.
They drive off in the Cadillac sitting there just completely, 4 flat tires, shaving cream on all the windows.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. And that's, harmless pranks, if you will. There was stuff like that going on. But throughout the movie, he wants to take her home, but he really does start caring for her.
Right. There was like a kind of like an older brother kind of affection that he started, started projecting onto Mackenzie Phillips' character.
And they're sitting down at Mel's, and this other, friend of Milner's comes up, leans in and talks to him. And Milner's just there. This is Carol, my niece. I'm babysitting. And she hauls off and slugs him, goes, "Babysitting," and stomps off. And she, the whole movie is, it's scene after scene that's just perfect. She's walking down the street, and some guys in a Sierra Gold 57 Chevy are trying to pick her up. Now, not only does Milner have to go get her, he has to jump in front of the other car and hope she chooses him. So he cuts around the 57, swings the door open, and she looks, and she runs and hops in Milner's, closes the door. "How's it going, cuz?" That's a great relationship to watch those two. So anyhow, I let you guys. What other scene was? I know we jumped from the vandalizing the police car to talking about Milner and Carol.
Well, because like my favorite of all like the like, because it, like I said, it's four or five different stories that are kind of thrown in that are happening at the same time. Milner and Carol was kind of like my favorite of the storylines.
Yeah, I'll say that mine too.
Toad is kind of funny too, just because it's he's kind of like the runt of the group, but he's still like he's the younger nerdy guy that's sticking around, but they're still friends with him anyway. The tough guy Milner, he's friends with Toad and kind of like looks out for him, and same thing with Kurt and everyone else. They're like, oh, it's not like nerd, and like they try to beat up Toad. He's one of their group.
I identify with each of the characters a little bit, whether it's Falfa, whether it's Milner, whether it's Kurt, whether it's... Okay, I don't identify with the girls.
Well, that's good to know.
There's all these little struggles going on. Steve Bolander, Ron Howard, he's going away to college. So he gives this is where it goes pretty far in the realm of unbelievable. He trusts the Toad with his 58 Impala.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was like, why would you trust a friend? I mean, I have like really close friends, and I wouldn't trust them with my car at all.
Supposedly this is my kid. I don't trust him with my car.
Supposedly
this is the narrative to the story. So here's Toad. He's cruising in this, Boss 58. And it's a really cool 58. All of these cars have become iconic that at almost any major car show, you'll see at least one of them replica, whether it's the Milner's Deuce Coupe, the Black 55, or Milner's 58. I mean, nobody has done the Lori's Edsel or Kurt's ex-girlfriend's Volkswagen Bug, but those three main cars, if you will, have all been cloned or tributes built. And by the way, if that 55 looks familiar, it was also the same car that was used in Two-Lane Blacktop.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And they use a few. So if there's a few mistakes in the movie. Clearly the car they roll at the end has got silver painted wheels instead of chrome wheels. There's other differences. Don't let little things like that ruin the movie. You can pick out the mistakes. It takes away from the story. So the cars were critical. Anyhow, Toad's driving the 58, and he pulls up at a light, and he throws some revs at this guy, and the left arrow comes on, and Toad lurches, stops, realizes, backs up to the light. And the kid who he was going to race is chuckling. Now the light turns green. Toad's still in reverse, and he backs into the guy behind him. It's like that happens, You screw up on the street. And then later he's cruising, and that's when he meets Candy Clark, Debbie. Right? Yeah, Debbie is the character's name, and that's another tender love story. This, what would we call her politely? She's maybe a popular girl.
Yeah, she's smart.
Popular. He's a slut.
Speaking about the woman I love. She's just a great character, and some bikers, I think, at the curb. And it's not, this isn't the first connection with Easy Rider, but I think they're bikers sitting there harassing her just about the time Toad pulls up. He goes, hello? Well, first he sees her and he goes, what a boss, babe. And he circles the block, and then he pulls up and he tries to get her attention. And she just loves tuck and roll, and she wants, so he lets her in, and then she tells him to peel out. And so they start cruising, and that's, like Robert said, one of the little stories that's going on while all these other stories are going on. And when they keep crossing paths through the night. And
Right.
It's a neat movie. Now, interesting or trivia, whatever. When it was first released, because they weren't sure how good it was going to be, they cut it down to, what was the runtime? Do you remember, Robert?
It was like an hour and a half, I think, or just
so
under.
90 minutes maybe. And when it started getting popular, they added 3 scenes back in, because the first time I watched it on TV, some of the words were edited instead of just bleep. They redo them. But there were 3 additional scenes that I look at. And I go, why did George Lucas want that scene put back in? It adds nothing. There's a scene at a used car lot right after the Toad has the accident in the 58.
That's right.
He pulls up to the car lot and the guy gets down.
Really pushy salesman trying to sell him the car, or like buy the car and then sell him another one.
It didn't really add anything to the movie, though, either way. And then there was, when Falf is serenading the Lori in the car, he sings, what's he sing, Robert? That old baritone.
Some Roger and Hammerstein's song from like a musical.
And it didn't add anything. So it's interesting that George Lucas wanted those 3 scenes put back in, because I watch it and I go, that was nothing.
The third one was with Steve and Lori at the prom, or like the school dance, where that was the other one where like he told the principal to eat a duck.
Yeah. And it's just kind of lame. But anyhow, hey, it's George's movie. Let him put in and take out what he wants. But those scenes were actually added after its initial release. And again, Andrew, I don't know which version you saw. There's a scene where they're cruising and Steve Bolander pulls up, and I'm pausing because I don't want to get the wrong characters, but the line is basically they pull up to some guys in a car. He goes, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "You're our brother." And I look, I go, that made absolutely no sense. You might as well have said something in Greek. It's your mother. But apparently that was too risque to put on TV. So the TV version goes, "You're our brother," because it fits the lips, basically. I thought, why didn't you guys just bleep it? Your mother was too risque to say on TV. But anyhow, there's a few things like that. So, and I don't mean to keep taking over the microphone, but Robert will bring up a scene. That's perfect. That, and then run with it. So that was just another relationship that's going on. I mean, you probably wouldn't call it what would you call it, a romance or a love movie or anything, but there are these relationships going on all happening in one night, and realistically so, even though it was shot over 28 or 29 nights.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's pretty fitting, because when you're that young, an entire lifetime could be had in one night. And so, each of these characters are, experiencing something, I think very profound, and profound, and what's the other word I'm looking for? Profound and somehow like impactful to their lives as well, because at first you had Kurt, who was kind of wishy-washy and wondering whether he should go, but then by the end he decides to go to college, and then you have Steve, where he was dead set on leaving and it's like, I can't wait to get out of this like one-horse town, but ultimately decides to put off school for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what is it? Milner's character, where he kind of feels like he has no like I guess he has no more challenges left for him, and feeling kind of the existential dread that a lot of young people are eventually forced to confront as they get older. So I think this movie has something for everybody, and you can definitely find see yourself in a lot of the different characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there a particular scene or like that you really liked, Andy, that like
that I particularly liked? Not. I mean, there wasn't any particular scene that I especially liked, but I think I'm with you guys in that. I think the scenes where it was Milner and Mackenzie Phillips' character, I think those are my favorite scenes. Like when they're interacting together, and those are my favorite scenes.
Falfa, he's an interesting character. The out of towner in the black 55, and he's almost not an integral part of the story. That you see a lot of them, but at the same time, it's Milner's big challenge.
Right.
And Milner's a little aloof about it. Yeah, if he's worth racing, he'll find me. And, first time you see him is with Deborah Lee Scott. And she's gum smacking, ain't he cool, kind of. Apparently it didn't work out, because then he's cruising alone. And then he picks up Lori, because her and Steve have had the big fight out at the canal watching the sub races when Steve, he's not quite sure. He's still convinced he's leaving. And he's breaking up with Lori, but she's there. Steve's being very coy and subtle, I'm going off to college and it's really big and, we love each other. Not that there's any doubt, but I think it would strengthen our relationship. And Lori's there expecting something really big. And all of a sudden Steve goes, if we date other people. And
right,
you just
right.
look at her face.
Right. It's very, like kind of a cliche. I mean, not just in movies, but like, any guy that, is going to go away for a long period of time, it's almost kind of expected now that, they kind of have like this conversation with like their girlfriend or whoever. And it's like, oh, I think, I love you. I really do. There's no doubt about it, but I think we should see other people.
Yeah. And, he throws that line in when he's, pressuring her to make out or whatever. And she's kind of resisting. And that classic line, oh, come on, don't act so righteous, especially after telling me about watching your brother. And she just pulls him out of the car. That's disgusting. Yeah, that was. There were so many, it was so well written and so many things that, it wasn't over polished. It was just a handful of kids growing up. And, the drag race scene out on Paradise Road, the Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. I can't hear that song without thinking of that drag race scene, and by now it's twilight, the sunrise, sun's coming up. And they're out on Paradise Road drag racing. And, that's a neat scene. And again, there's a few things out of sequence there, but it doesn't ruin the feel of the movie, and Milner gets to keep his crown for another year.
Well, it was because there's that interaction with Toad and Milner at that, or it's like, or Milner's like he felt defeated, even like yeah he won, but he didn't win. And he's like, nah, he had me, man. Like this sucks. And it's like Toad's like, what are you talking about? You had him, and like look, you won. And he's like, all right, Toad. And he slaps the cards like, we're gonna beat them all, you know. and and that was and the way the movie ends is kind of it is kind of a sad ending because that was really the last night that they all had together, because you have like kind of the end where it talks about the four main guys, and that was really the last time that they had together.
Yeah, and that ending caught a lot of people off guard with the little cameo and a 3-sentence of Steve Bolander became an insurance agent, and so what they all did, and there was some discussion. Wait, there were a lot more people than those 4. What about the girls? What about we can't have a page and a half of people. Let's talk about these people, and that was a good way to end it. I think they didn't need to go and make more American Graffiti and try and, okay, you know what the ending is, so they filled in some of the storyline. I didn't care for it. I don't know if either of you watched it or not.
I haven't seen it yet.
And we're not here to talk about it. So it was an interesting end, and you're right, Robert. That was the end of their innocence. They were going off to become adults. Wherever that would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did we miss any other good scenes that we should
discuss? That's all I can think of.
Well, I do like the Sock Cop where you get to see Flash Cadillac and the Continental Kids do Louie Louie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about the music.
Kurt and the Pharaohs. What an unlikely pairing that wound up being. Here's the same kid. They've done the stunt with the police car, and now the leader of the Pharaohs. Geez, guys.
Bo Hopkins
is saying, man, you'll make a Pharaoh yet with car club coat, blood initiation, and Kurt suddenly, whoa, blood initiation, and they're cruising, and Kurt had won a scholarship from the Moose Lodge, and they pull up to the little mini golf and pinball arcade, and Kurt's all excited. Hey, I like pinball. Joe goes, I don't. I hate it. Well, why are we stopping? We're out of gas. They don't sell gas here. Yeah, we're out of money too. And so they start jimming open the pinball machines. And the two managers come out and, hey, what's going on? And Kurt saves the day. Oh, hey, Mr. I don't remember the moose guy's name. Moose guy, yeah. Moose 1 and Moose 2. And Kurt kind of gets them all out of trouble. And, so that there's another unique bonding during the movie.
You could also say that, like, really he is, I think he did find what he was looking for, because he had that interaction with, he was going after the mysterious woman and the T-Bird.
Right.
Yeah, and that caused him, and then kind of ran into an old girlfriend that he kind of started to get back together with, and then after that, that's when he met up with the Pharaohs, and after that, it's like, I gotta know who that woman is, and he went to what I think he thought was the rumored location of Wolfman Jack. And it's like, and it turned out that, like, well, what he thought initially was like, oh, this guy that was there is like, oh man, Wolfman Jack, he's just a bunch of tapes, he's not a real guy. And it was kind of like this Wizard of Oz moment where he got a look behind the curtain and saw that was actually, well, the guy kind of did some magic on him. He did see it actually was Wolfman. And it was seeing that was like realizing, you know what, it's gonna be all right. And he ended up deciding on leaving and kind of fulfilling whatever it is that he was going to fulfill at college. So of all the characters, he's really the only one that kind of figured it out in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think they all I think they all realized what they had to realize. Each for themselves.
That's true. Yeah. And for some of them it ended up working out, and then some of them it didn't.
Right.
Toad and Candy Clark didn't exactly make it. Debbie. But at the end, that their night of having the car stolen, him getting beat up, getting drunk, the robbery. At the end, she's going off with some other guy, but she leaves it open for him. Because, that's all, that's almost a motorcycle, and I just love motorcycles. I'm not doing anything next Monday. Give me a call or what, So, everybody has an interesting night. And sees what they need to see. Mm-hmm. Kurt gets varying stories on who Suzanne Summers' character is. Right. The ex-girlfriend in the Volkswagen, the girl driving, says, "I know who she is. She's the jeweler's wife." And then when he's riding with the Pharaohs, they tell her she's a $30 cherry. And
that's right.
Even bring himself to say the word, and we never really find out. But the Wolfman plays the request, and she calls, and even as the plane's leaving, he looks down, and there goes the white 56. Mm-hmm. And another interesting character. Start to end right there.
Right. I thought that was pretty interesting because, that whole night when he was, kind of wrestling with himself and debating on whether he should go or stay, and this kind of temptation for him was always within reach, but was so close but out of reach. But finally, when he decided to go, he was, the last shot is him in the plane, and he looks down and he sees this white, presumably the T-bird, and it's it's no longer a temptation for him. It's no longer that thing that is calling to him and and causing giving him reason to stay. So I think I thought that was a great shot for as he's leaving. It's that's no longer a temptation for him, or that's no longer the doubt in his mind that that he needs to stay. He can finally leave.
Yeah. Well, what would you? I guess we can talk a little bit about the music too, and because you were mentioning earlier that this is one of the earlier movies where it wasn't an original score, but it was actually utilizing popular music at the time,
right? Pre-existing music. And then, the director was using that to almost compose the scene.
Right, and he had picked out songs for certain scenes to kind of to present the mood of the scene. And this is actually where the majority of the budget in the film went to, was the securing music rights. And one thing to note is that it is without any sort of Elvis Presley in there, which would have been a popular musician to have at the time. And my dad knows kind of the reasoning behind that, which is kind of a funny story.
There wasn't a lot of movie. The movie had a budget of about $777,000, and it's grossed over $200 million. So not a bad investment. But they didn't have a lot of money left for the music score to secure the rights. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was roughly $2,000 per song. And everybody agreed to it except for RCA said, no, Elvis would never agree to that. And so, yeah, even though Elvis would have been very popular back then in that time frame of 62, because RCA wouldn't agree to the same royalties that everyone else did, there's no Elvis. And without spoiling the movie, it's interesting that Milner's Deuce Coupe has no radio antenna, yet he gets the AM radio station just fine.
Yeah.
And the windshield wiper jumps from side to side and comes and goes, depending on where the camera was.
Yeah.
But like I said, don't let that spoil the movie. It's still a great movie, but it's just, but that's why there's no Elvis in there, because RCA wouldn't agree to it. And besides, rock and roll's been going downhill since Buddy Holly died. That was the line while Carol and Paul and Matt were getting to know each other. And
I hate that surfer shit.
Yeah, the Beach Boys.
He turned it off. She turns it back on. And yeah. So a great movie, though. Pretty wholesome. The cars were done well. And nothing totally outlandish that, you wouldn't have, that would have never happened that way. It was a different time. Like I mentioned to Robert, cruising was changing. I wasn't driving in 62 legally, or at all. I'm sorry. Yeah, I wasn't driving at all. But it's, when I was cruising in the 70s and 80s, it was changing, and the law was trying to take the fun out of it, and the drag racing was getting out of hand and stuff. So 62 was a good time. And it was a nice, simple era. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. Even though I guess the movie was set in 62, but actually came out in 1974, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely worth seeing, I think, for the cars, for the music, to see those actors before they were
big.
Some of them have gone on to do other things, I guess. I don't know. Richard Dreyfuss. All the actors had the short crew cuts. Alpha's character. What's his name? Harrison Ford didn't want to get a haircut. He had longer hair. That's why he's shown with the cowboy hat. But it fits his character really well in that 55 Chevy. And he's sitting up, bolt upright, gasser style. And so the cowboy hat fits him. But he didn't want to get a haircut for the movie because there's not a lot of roles for guys my age with crew cuts. So we got to figure out how I can keep my long hair. And it worked well.
Well, should we give the rating for American Graffiti?
Yes, by all means.
All right, Andy. We'll start with you.
All right, for me, I give this an 8.5. Oh no, sorry, wrong scale. Out of 5, I give this a 4.
All right. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I gotta go 4.5. Like I said, it's just all the separate character interactions, the time period, just the fact that it's perfectly imperfect, and it just it felt like this was done on purpose. It did feel kind of more of like a documentary more than just a theatrical film. So that was kind of it felt real.
So it's a scale of 0 to 5, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, to me, it didn't even feel like a documentary. It felt like a whole movie almost. So, take the meter. I'm giving it a good solid 5. I love
All
it.
right.
All right. Yeah. Well, there you have it. Robert's dad gives it a 5. I give it a 4. Robert gives it 4.5. Definitely a movie to.
My lawn.
I'm sorry.
You punks get off my lawn.
Yeah.
The old guy in the group says.
Right, I know, right? Robert's dad's word is law. Yeah, but that's our review of American Graffiti. It was a very enjoyable film. Highly recommend it. It's great. You can watch it with the entire family.
Great soundtrack.
Oh yeah, as well as the soundtrack. The soundtrack is great. I really enjoyed the music.
And a lot of, just to back up for a second, a lot of the Wolfman Jack, he was a real DJ, but the sound clips they're using were real sound clips, not done just for the movie, but they had taken out of his archives.
Oh, wow.
You guys probably never got to hear him. He was on XM for a while, playing his old tapes and stuff. But yeah, it was really something. I told Robert, it was AM, and it was a really weak station where I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley. And I had 2 radios. I didn't have stereo. So I would put the 2 separate radios on opposite sides of the room, and I would tune them in. And it was so weak that I'd get a little bleed over from the other station, and the one radio would pick up that plus the radio station up, and the other radio would pick up the radio plus the radio station down. So I had like 3 radio stations playing, trying to listen to it, pick out the Wolfman Jack and his music and his voice. Wolfman left us a number of years back, but yeah, he was really an icon growing up. And that is him in the movie. That's not a character. That's the real Wolfman.
It's not an actor. It's the actual Wolfman Jack.
That is the Wolfman Jack. Oh.
All right. Well, should we head into some Easy Rider commentary?
All right. Yeah. Let's let us do that. Okay.
Now I had to start off talking, like, since we're into Easy Rider. I have to talk a little something that kind of, this movie starts very abruptly. Whereas it's kind of almost, the way that I described it is it feels like a movie that is like we're coming in late to see the movie, and like we're about like a couple hours too late for the start of the film, and we're getting the end. And that's how that's how the start of this movie feels like to me in Easy Rider. It just you're right there. Yeah.
Starts at full throttle and you miss the first half of it. And there's a reason for that.
So you have there's that, because you kind of start right in on this drug deal that Captain America and Dennis Hopper's character is Billy, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Billy. And it's right in on a drug deal that they're finishing up, and they end up getting paid for it, and then it's just kind of this adventure. And for me, I almost would like it's like, man, I wish they would like have backed this up just a little bit, or like maybe they would do a prequel to Easy Rider. I don't know, but it starts so suddenly, but it's it kind of works for the film in a way. And another thing that's kind of in a similar fashion to American Graffiti is it also has kind of a awesome soundtrack, and but what's different is that
of course, Robert's dad has the album.
Close to my heart.
Yeah. So, whereas George Lucas was focused, where he specifically built scenes around the music. From what I understand in Easy Rider is that the guy that was editing the film was he was so bored out of his mind editing the film that he would listen to rock music as he was editing, and that was the music they ended up using for the film.
Before we get any further, let me just I'll just give I'll give the quick synopsis for Easy Rider, and then we can just take off from there. Wyatt, Peter Fonda, and Billy, Dennis Hopper, two Harley riding hippies, complete a drug deal in Southern California and decide to travel cross country in search of spiritual truth. On their journey, they experience bigotry and hatred from the inhabitants of small town America, and also meet with other travelers seeking alternative lifestyles. After a terrifying drug experience in New Orleans, the two travelers wonder if they will ever find a way to live peacefully in America.
That's actually, a pretty spot on synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert's right about the way the movie starts. It's like you missed the first reel of it.
Right. It's very abrupt, where it just kind of drops you in, and it's already the drug deal, and
it's almost like it's at the climax or the end of the climax, and you're getting the epilogue. That's what the movie kind of feels like to me.
Well,
that's a good way of putting that. Yeah.
The Dennis Hopper was about 4 hours long. And they started trimming. And
Dennis Hopper directed this movie, right?
Well, depends who you listen to, and unfortunately, they're all dead now.
Yeah.
Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and who really takes credit? I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he passed away recently.
One of the writers?
Yeah.
Well, it says here, the screenplay was done by Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and Terry Southern.
Yeah, and they interviewed Jerry Southern a few times, and he kind of scoffed at Dennis Hopper. He would say it's almost impossible to overstate Dennis Hopper's contribution to this movie, yet he does it every time he talks about it. And he ad-libbed 6 lines, and 3 of them made it to the cutting room, made it to the movie. He still wanted writing credit, so there was a lot of controversy about it. But the movie, can I fill you in on the background that you guys don't get to see because it's been lost to the cutting room? Is that an appropriate place to start? So Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, Wyatt and Billy, they're a couple of stunt riders in a circus, and they get ripped off by the circus. They're disillusioned. And they on a whim somehow, and I don't remember exactly how they set up this drug deal. And they go down to Mexico, they score the coke, and they bring it back up. And some of that 4 hours that they've cut out was a very dramatic part of them being the stunt riders. Some great chase scenes through the Mexican forest where police helicopters chasing them. And the billboards, the old Burma shave billboards, are giving you part of the story as they're riding by. But it was too long of a scene to leave in the movie and try and get the movie down to, what did this one run? Call it an hour and a half also, roughly.
Yeah.
So the only way to save it is just cut all of this. Now, if you rented, what did you rent, Robert? The Netflix or something?
I rented it through Amazon, yeah.
Okay, that has a little bit more. If you watch the TV version, I mean, boom, you see Peter Fonda stuffing the money into the gas tank. And you're going, what? You know, that's even worse. At least the one we had a little bit of the deal. And you see him selling the Coke to, did you guys catch who that was in the Rolls Royce?
Yeah, Phil Spector.
He's going to wind up doing time. Mark my word. Oh, wait. But again, without jumping too far in, I really identify with this movie because I've been riding Harleys since the 70s, and Robert helped me build one. And and again, it's very realistic, except for the whole, you know, running drugs cross country and stuff. The race, not the racism, the animosity towards that lifestyle is very real. It starts out very early. You see them they pull up to the motel and sign's got the vacancy sign. And while they're there trying to check in, it flashes to no vacancy. I've had that happen. You have to stop outside of town and call ahead and make a reservation and roll into town. And then, you know, hey, I'm here. I've got the reservation. Here's my number. There was a lot of prejudice against, I never had long hair like that and stuff, but just riding a lot of chopper, whether it was jealousness that you're living an alternative lifestyle, whether it's fear, out not wanting to accept something out of the norm. So what they experience is very believable. But that's a little bit of the backstory to why, as they edit it down, why you drop in on reel 2 of the movie, basically. And they think all of those previous scenes have been lost. Nobody has ever found them. And this was the 50th anniversary this year, and it would have been a perfect time to find them and miraculously restore them. But it really does start on reel 2 because there was no way to edit reel 1 down and get it to fit the time frame.
That's interesting too because what is it? Dennis Hopper's character Billy always refers to Peter Fonda's white character as Captain America. And it's like you don't really, you kind of don't understand like why. I mean, you might be able to infer because because he has like the American flag on his jacket and things like that, but like it ultimately doesn't really make sense. But then having that knowledge of they used to be stunt riders and or performed in like a circus, then it kind of does make sense.
Yeah, and they were named after Wyatt Earp and Billy the Kid.
Right.
Names were very carefully chosen to fit the renegade lifestyle, if you will. Just want to give a real quick nod to. I don't want to give it yet because apparently I've lost my page. Sorry about this.
That's okay.
The problem with live TV.
Or somewhat live.
Yeah.
Robert, can you? I'm just getting the bottom half of your. Yeah, there you go.
I just saw it. Trying to find the guys who built the bikes. Cliff Voss and Ben Hardy were the 2 guys who built the choppers. They never get credit for building them. They were a couple of black motorcycle builders down in the Los Angeles area. They put a couple of bikes together. They had some input from Peter Fonda. But they built the bikes, and they never got the proper credit. And they built probably two of the most iconic motorcycles ever in a movie, more so than Electra Glide in Blue or any of those others. I've got a pair of die-cast ones on the mantle. I've got a poster of them in the bedroom. Not the kind of style I would have ridden. I liked apes. I wouldn't have gone with the flashy red, white, and blue paint job. But anyhow, just a quick nod to those guys. If I wind up on the cutting room floor, that's okay. I just want to. I give them credit.
Right. I remember you guys.
Yeah.
That'd never be said. I don't remember those guys.
Yeah. It just took me a while to remember who I was trying to remember.
And going more towards the movie side of it too. The characters are kind of interesting in how they end up being kind of friends because they feel like they're very different. While they do live kind of a similar lifestyle, they are very different in a lot of ways. Peter Fonda's character, Captain America, he seems more contemplative and like he's looking for a place to kind of just be like settle in and just kind of enjoy the land and kind of enjoy life, but like in a kind of in a sensible way. Whereas Billy, played by Dennis Hopper, he's a crazy person in a lot of ways. He's kind of as are most Dennis Hopper characters. He's kind of a crazy person, and it seems like, and how they end up like becoming friends and doing something like what they did, this drug deal. It's like you kind of don't want a guy like Dennis Hopper, with you because they're kind of you never know about them.
It's the yin and the yang of the relationship. Mm-hmm. It works. But yeah, Peter Fonda is very mellow, man. Nice pad you got here.
Right.
And Dennis Hopper's suspicious of everybody. A little sketchy, little,
Right. It's like
interesting.
In that first like farm they come upon so they could fix the tire, they come and like have a meal with the rancher and Peter Fonda's character is like, man, it's like, almost speaking enviously of this man's life where, he has his wife, he has his family, he has his land, he's completely self-sufficient. Not in the way that, that he and Billy are kind of self-sufficient, but more like in a more like natural kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
That that he somehow that he covets, in a sense.
Yeah, you have that, and then they come upon whatchamacallit. I forget the character's name, but that other kind of cult hippie that they come across.
Oh yeah, the commune guy.
Yeah, the commune guy.
That's Lou Cass.
Okay. Yeah, he's whereas like kind of that's where like the suspiciousness of Billy kind of comes out because in a lot of ways it's that character, the commune guy, is kind of it seems like a mixture of both Billy and Captain America, where it's like he's kind of this mellow but kind of wild man that like lives off the land and is kind of, but he's also kind of suspicious of society. So it's kind of like like this one character is kind of a merger of those two, but it's kind of he kind of rubs Billy the wrong way, and like they're even like while he is kind of being nice that they're you gave me a ride, and he's kind of like I'll go ahead and I'll fill up the tank, and he's like, if he looks right in the gas tank, he's gonna see what's going on, and it's like, and he's like, you can't trust him, man. It's kind of
very kind of like paranoid, drug-addled kind of mindset.
Yeah.
But their entire life was in that gas tank. So, and I don't know if we covered it. They do the big drug deal, and Peter Fonda puts it all inside of a Tygon tube. with cork ends, and all their money is in there. And yeah, here they've got this total stranger pumping gas into the bike. And yeah, Peter, again, throughout the movie, he's very, it's cool. And Dennis is always sketchy, nervous, like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, just, jumping around.
I've always liked that expression.
Yeah. And at whether it's the farmer who let him change the tire or at the commune, again, Peter is envious of the calm relationship, and the soil isn't rich at all at the commune where they're planting the seeds, and
right.
Dennis is going, man, they're wasting their time, and Peter goes, no, they're going to make it. And by the way, at that commune scene, the little 4-year-old girl is Bridget Fonda.
Oh, wow.
If anybody cared.
Yeah.
So, and then, but they're, again, it's the yin and yang that makes that relationship work for those two guys. And he's the one who gives them a little LSD to share with the right people at the right time. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they're back on the road again. And they, Dennis couldn't wait to get on the road because he wasn't happy with the way he was being treated there. He wanted full privilege right away, and apparently it had to be earned. And so they get back on the road. And they're sleeping at campfires. After that first hotel scene, they never try and check into a hotel again. They pull off the road, and the bikes are always in the campfire scene. And there's a reason I point that out. At this point, I'll tell you, I'll keep you in suspense. I'll build you up to it.
Because then after this, like they go on the road, and then the next place that they end up, like we see them at a at the end of a parade, and they're kind of like messing around with the parade, and it's like they end up getting in trouble, like because they are not part of the parade and are ticketed, and they get thrown in jail.
Oh yeah, parading without a permit, I believe the charge was.
Right. And this is where they meet one of, I think, the great side characters in the film, played by Jack Nicholson.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And he's kind of like this alcoholic, scummy lawyer. But he's also like kind of
redundant. Scummy lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh. To all the James thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But they kind of, similar to how things work out, where it kind of some of the relationship with Captain America and Billy, he's kind of, cool, calm, collected. That Billy is kind of, crazy. It's like, come on, man, you hurt my friend. Like, what are you doing? And like, they kind of get off to a rocky start, but then he works to get them out of jail and kind of get out of that and get out of town, and he ends up traveling with them because he's kind of he's looking for something different, looking for an adventure, and he ends up being kind of like the third man of the group almost,
right.
Where he just really got along with the characters, and it's like, and wanted to be a part of what they were doing, and it was kind of I would say, like, this is probably like, he was one of the other characters. He was my favorite just because I felt like, yeah, he belonged in the group. He was just a cool guy.
He was so out of context to the other two, yet he fit in. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was an ATLU lawyer, and he had always wanted to go to Mardi Gras, and he had never made it past county line. And he pulls out a card for House of the Blue Light. And who's the girl he wants to talk to? Madam Tinkertoy. House of the Blue They give a street address in New Orleans for the whorehouse.
Right.
And that street Orleans is now a Sheraton hotel, so you can still get a hooker there if you need one. Anyhow. and so then it's interesting. Peter Fonda goes, "Do you need a helmet?" Peter Fonda puts on his helmet. Jack Nicholson puts on his old college football helmet. And Dennis Hopper never wears anything but his hat.
Right.
So, and we, in 69, various states have helmet laws, but apparently that was never an issue for Dennis Hopper. But they make Jack Nicholson wear the football helmet, and they bitch back him on the back of Captain America. And the three of them just make a perfect scene,
Right.
Yeah, he really brings. I think that's when the movie really starts picking up speed and feeling like, okay, well, if you drop me in on reel 2, it was a lull, and it's slowly ramping up. And once Jack Nicholson comes on, boy, okay, now I think I can. The train's going downhill now in more ways than one. But yeah, he brings a lot to the movie.
And this is kind of like where when you were giving the synopsis, Andy, it was talking about the bigotry and the racism, which is not really in the case of this film. Like I didn't that's kind of like the wording there's a little odd, but the animosity towards bikers is kind of like what we see in the film, and that's where the bigotry in a sense to bikers. And on the way to Mardi Gras, there's that scene in the cafe where you have all the these kind of small town on the way to New Orleans, and it's like kind of looking at them funny and all this. It kind of you have the girls kind of on at these three, and you have everyone else in the cafe. It's like they're can't wait to do something to these guys, and it's a very tense scene in a lot of ways.
And those 6 girls, they could have easily been from Mel's Drive-In on American Graffiti. They are cut looking. And you got the 2 bikers, and you got the table full of rednecks. And to make sure those rednecks, they were genuine locals from that little town. Mm-hmm. And to get them fully worked up, full of hatred and animosity towards those bikers, they knew it was a movie they were filming, but they told them, in the movie, those guys had just raped and murdered a girl in the past town. They really wanted those local rednecks to hate those bikers. So to make sure they brought out all the brim and fire, they told them that the movie was actually different than it was. Yeah. So they were ready. Well, they did go out and exact their revenge a little bit later, but there at the restaurant, it was tense.
Right. So they're method acting, basically.
Yeah. I forget, but locals from that little town.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because it was right after that. That was kind of one of the, as you said, the kind of the descent of the movie, where it's like this to me was, I thought, kind of the saddest part, where because they end up leaving that town and go and camp for the night as they had done many nights before, and those same people from the town end up walloping them with crowbars, and they end up killing Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, and beat them to hell, but they were able to survive, thankfully. But it was kind of a sad end.
Which played on them.
Yeah.
Right. It was kind of a sad end, because I felt like they lost out on one of their own.
Mm-hmm.
But they take his wallet because George would have wanted us to.
Yeah, that's right. Because they end up like living out his fantasy, because that's what George would have wanted.
Right.
Yeah. But they do have plans to come back and take him back to his hometown for burial. That's their plans. Mm-hmm. But I guess they leave him there for the moment. They're still on their route. Yeah, I like the movie, but yeah, it starts getting a little grim when they kill George or Jack Nicholson.
Right. Yeah, and like that, the whole like after they go to the whorehouse, and then they just they decide to go and walk around during Mardi Gras. I thought it was that was another weird kind of tonal shift for me, because it was more like the kind of, it wasn't like the, what is it, the high production value like shots that we were used to seeing, and it was more of like them just like kind of a camera person just like kind of following them around on the streets of New Orleans.
And yeah, the back streets, not the big glitz and glimmer. And by the way, those two girls, the working girls, were Tony Basil and Karen Black.
Right.
Hey, Mickey, that song.
Yeah. I thought that was really weird, by the way.
and they're using George's credit card because he would have wanted us.
He would have wanted it that way.
Yeah, and it's not what they want, so they leave Mardi Gras. Wow, this was their whole goal up until this point in the movie, was to make Mardi Gras, and they get there, and this happens, so much in life. This is what I want. This is my goal. And you get there. Wow, this isn't at all what I thought it would be.
Right,
so
reality doesn't live up to the hype.
Yeah, they're disillusioned. So they go to the cemetery, which is where it's always been my lifelong dream. Well, I don't care if my wife might walk in. Yeah, let's go to the cemetery with hookers and do drugs. But that's what these guys decide to do. And it's a bad trip. So, and before they got all the cinematography special effects that they have now, like, and with the budget they had, that was how they did a bad trip. That was the whole thing. They dropped the acid, and they had a tough time doing it. And I think Dennis Hopper antagonized Peter a little bit to get him into the spirit of the bad trip by talking about his mother, who had killed herself 10 years earlier.
Oh, geez.
So like they had told the locals, to make sure you get the right emotion, hey, pray to this statue thinking about your mother who killed herself 10 years ago. So a little grim at times.
Kind of messed up.
Yeah, but that explains so much for me, because I was wondering why, like during like the whole like trip, the bad trip scene was like he was like pressed up against like the statue, and he was kind of venting as you would to someone like who's like on their deathbed, or just kind of be like why did you do this to me, but that makes a lot having this new information definitely puts that into context.
A lot of in the initial cut, there were a lot of premonitions or flash forwards going on.
Right.
Through the entire movie, after all the editing, only one survived. And if you caught it, it happens during the bad trip.
Yeah.
Fire on the side of the road.
Right.
And see, when it came to that scene, I didn't catch it as a flash forward until the end of the movie, because I thought that was them. I thought they had burned George's body, just to kind of, and that's what initially what I had thought. And he had felt guilty because, like, man, we should have done something better. George deserved better, and we're taking his credit card, and like we just burned his body, and so he was thinking back to that point. But it wasn't until the end of the film where I was like, oh, that's okay. That's what he was actually he was seeing his own death in a lot of ways. That was kind of where
but George would have wanted him.
Yes, that'll be the constant refrain. George would wanted it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they do the bad trip, and And then we go quiet. Okay, so then they go back on the road, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when they're sitting around the campfire scene. And out of kind of seemingly nowhere, Dennis Hopper goes, "We blew it." Did I skip too many? I think we're at the right scene, right?
No. You're right.
Yeah.
That's
and so at that campfire scene, the bikes aren't in the background, and there's a reason for that. So just bear that in mind, that at that scene, the bikes aren't in the background, and again, through editing, so much had been shot. Dennis Hopper just all of a sudden goes, "We blew it." What do you mean, man? So they're still on they're going to continue their journey on to Florida. New Orleans wasn't what they wanted, which is understandable. And Florida isn't going to be any better. And they're out on the road through rural Alabama, probably, and they meet the rednecks. Mm-hmm. Have we jumped too far too fast, or is this an appropriate time?
No. We're right. Yeah, we're right on. We're right on schedule.
And the guy, and back in 69, 70, pickup trucks used to have shotgun racks like they show. I know you wouldn't see that today, but that was very typical. Mm-hmm. And the redneck pulls it down and points it out the window, and I forget the exact dialogue, but he's just supposed to scare him.
No, this is dialogue that Dennis Hopper gave him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He flips him the bird, and then, the rednecks were like just trying to scare them, but somehow, it just jumped out of my hands and it went off.
The movie posters, that's a very famous poster, Hopper's Finger. So he's sitting there riding along and he's flipping the bird. Mm. And boom, the guy pulls the trigger. And Peter Fonda sees it and stops and turns around. And if you've never turned a bike with that much stretch, that much rake, Peter, these weren't actors who just kind of pretended to ride. Those are not easy bikes to ride. Dennis Hopper had very narrow handlebars, and Peter Fonda had a lot of rake and stretch, and he turns it around, and now he's going back to rescue his buddy, and the rednecks realize, hey, we can't leave witnesses. So actually, Peter Fonda goes back, sees Dennis Hopper is not dead yet, but seriously wounded, and Fonda jumps on his bike, and the guys are coming back in the truck and they blow him away. So they had two of each bikes in the movie, and they just destroyed two of them. The other two bikes get stolen from the movie set, and they're sitting around and they're having a rap session. Mm-hmm. And it's rumored the drugs they were doing in the movie were real drugs, and it's very possible because this was the 60s.
Right.
And all of a sudden they go, shit, we haven't shot the final campfire scene yet. Well, we don't have the motorcycles anymore. That's why the motorcycles are not in that final campfire scene, is because they had already been stolen.
Oh.
Now, I wasn't there. I don't know Peter, Dennis, or the other writer personally. Mm-hmm. But it's good stuff, even if it's not true, right? Let's go with that.
Yeah. This movie kind of it just as suddenly as it begins, it suddenly ends.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a very fitting way, in kind of how everything kind of comes together. I think it's very fitting.
I really like the movie. It's so real, and the prejudice, the hatred, the flat tire, all that is so been there, done that kind of thing. And every time I watch it, it's like, I hope it ends differently this time. That end, I watch it and I just, God, I hate the ending of this movie. I really like the movie. I don't want the guys to die that way. I don't want him to die, but it's a movie. Dennis Hopper in it, so he has to die.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched a Dennis Hopper movie where he lived at the, he was alive at the end.
About that, because after this movie, I said, let's watch something a little bit more up. It does. It seriously brings me down every day. I know how it's going to end. I mean, before the credits, I know those two guys are going to die. I watch it every time, and it's like 12-year-old waiting for Santa Claus to come. Maybe it's going to end differently this time. Oh, they died again. But I still enjoy the movie in spite of that.
I think the only movie that Dennis Hopper that I know that he survived in at the end was Flashdance.
Flashdance?
Was it Flashdance or Flash something? I always forget the name of this damn movie. Flashback. Thank you.
Robert's showing his inner movie preferences. Flashdance. You know what he's watching on the other half of his split screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was a good movie. Again, another very low budget movie. They had about a $400,000. Are we done? Well, I guess we're done talking about the movie because we killed our two main characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had about a $400,000 budget, so almost half of what American Graffiti had. They spent a lot more money on music rights for this one. And again, it was funny, like Robert said at the opening, the film editor watching hours and hours of motorcycle. It's like watching somebody else's home movies. My God, would somebody just hit me in the head with a railroad spike or something? So the guy was playing music just to keep awake. Whatever, I think it was at his sister's house and he had her 45s. And slowly certain songs became the songs that, hey, Steppenwolf, Born to be Wild fits really good in this opening scene. Actually, that song was initially sequenced for the chase scene through Mexico where they had the billboards that had part of the story, but they moved the song because I can't hear that song and not picture ape hangers and flying in the breeze. But Bob Dylan didn't want his music used in that movie. So even though they used a few Bob Dylan songs, they had Roger McGuinn cover them with Bob Dylan's permission. And I think everybody else was pretty good with the music.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I'm just looking at some notes I had real quick. That's, it was a good movie. It's very believable. I hate that ending. Yeah. But a lot of bikers.
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way with Titanic.
How about you guys? Was that the first time you had watched it, Andy?
Yeah, this was my first time watching Easy Rider.
Were you starting to feel? Were you, sometimes like, I don't know if you want to say rooting for the hero, but you kind of want him to make it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't expect for the ending that we got. I thought that it was just gonna end on like. I just didn't expect it to end it the way it did, like so abruptly and so kind of on a down note. But hey, I mean, I kind of understand how you feel about how every time you watch it, you kind of expect something different to happen. Because I'm the same way with Titanic. Because I'm expecting every time I watch it, I get towards the end. I'm always expecting Rose to let Jack on the door because there's room enough for Jack on the door.
She's the villain of that film. I'm telling you, Andy.
I'm telling you, there's room enough for Jack and Rose on that door. All right, he didn't have to die. Damn it.
I wanted Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper to make it to Florida, dye their hair blue, and ride a jazzy scooter. You know what?
There you go. There you go. See, I would prefer that ending.
The alternate ending.
Yes.
And they'll supply the old folks home with little blue pills or something.
There you go. There it is. Right. If they ever, before, Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, passed away, that would have been a great follow up.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm trying to be very clever about the title, but
yeah,
it escapes me at the moment.
Another, probably a better biker movie to watch with Peter Fonda in it is The Wild Angels. It came out about 3 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also fairly not near as well known as Easy Rider, but also fairly iconic biker movie. Well, what's a little funny, and neither of you guys got to meet my dad, who was pretty straight-laced. When Easy Rider came out in 69, there was no mistaking where they got their money from and stuff. My dad comes home one day from work, and he had gone to Sunset House, and he brought me the Easy Rider poster to put up in my bedroom of Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper, full color, big 2 foot by 3 foot poster. And it's like, this is so stinking cool. And I'm just looking at him going, wow, did he not watch the movie? You're not encouraged. No, I just know you like them damn loud contraptions, I thought, I'd show you. So, and I don't have that one anymore, but I do have a black and white version of that poster hanging in my bedroom. And like I said, I've got the 1/18 scale die-cast motorcycles. It's a great iconic movie. Nobody anticipated it grossing over $60 million. But damn, that ending gets me every time.
Yeah, it's kind of like I felt kind of depressed at the end of it because you're rooting for those guys to make it because they're so damn likable and they didn't deserve the what they got.
Yeah. And you get wrapped up in them, and you get wrapped up in the story, and what's going to befall them next, and you don't expect it to be a double blast out of a shotgun. And so that kind of ended any potential for a sequel to that movie.
Yeah.
But a good movie nonetheless.
I do hope that there's someday someone does find the footage that was left out of the film that we could see. Just because I think I don't know. I would like to see more of the backstory.
4.5 hours of it.
I'm just saying, but seeing more of the backstory between the characters.
Yeah.
Obviously the ending is still going to be the same, but it's. I think it would be interesting to see.
Interestingly enough, that movie Ghost Rider took a lot of inspiration from Easy Rider.
Yeah.
The Daredevils, the Ghost Rider character, like how him and his dad, lived and worked at a carnival, and his dad was a stunt rider, and even the bike that he had, was very reminiscent of Peter Fonda's motorcycle in Easy Rider.
Real good connection there, Andy. It wasn't a movie I necessarily wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's on TV, and I'm watching it, and I'm just going, holy crap, this is this is so much like Easy Rider. The bike is practically Captain America. And then you meet El Diablo, and that was Peter Fonda.
Right.
And I'm going, wait, so this is cool. This isn't a ripoff. This is like a tribute or a tribute to Easy Rider almost.
Or an homage.
And suddenly I felt really good about it. And wow, this, and at the end of the movie, I go, that was so stinking. I would have never watched that movie because I thought it was this cartoon thing. That was stinking cool. Yeah. So I was just checking the list of some of the deleted scenes that Robert wants to see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the original opening showing Wyatt and Billy performing in a Los Angeles stunt show. Mm-hmm. Wyatt and Billy being ripped off by the promoter. Wyatt and Billy getting in a biker fight. Wyatt and Billy picking up women at a drive-in because you don't take the Harley to the drive-in. Wyatt and Billy
or at least to watch a movie, that is.
Yeah. Cruising to and escaping from Mexico to score the coke they sell. And this is the big one, the elaborate police and helicopter chase that took place at the beginning after the dope deal, with police chasing Wyatt and Billy over the mountains and across the Mexican border. The road trip out of L.A. edited to the full length of Steppenwolf's Born to be Wild, with billboards offering wry commentary. Wyatt and Billy being pulled over by a cop while riding their motorcycles across a highway. Wyatt and Billy meeting a black motorcycle gang. 10 additional minutes for the Volatile Cafe scene, Louisiana, where George deftly keeps the peace. Wyatt and Billy checking into a hotel before going to Madame Tinker Toys. An extended, much longer Madame Tinker Toy sequence. And extended versions of the campfire scenes, including the finale in which Wyatt says, "We blew it, Billy." And so, yeah, there's a lot of story there. And like, how much of that was before we ever drop in on, but like we said, at Reel 2, basically, the movie's already going and you walked in late.
And to me, it's almost like, with him, putting the money in the gas tank, that should have been like in another movie, that would probably have been the ending. It's like, oh, we made it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first 2 hours of the movie.
Right, or that should have been the end of the first movie, and then the sequel is them going off and like having that adventure.
Why aren't we film directors or film editors?
Yeah.
And actually, I think the edited for TV version cuts off even more of the front of that movie because dealing with coke and stuff. Let's not show that because it might lead people to do drugs. Much like Jack Nicholson's character says at the campfire. Oh, yeah. And he offers him a joint and goes, "Oh, no, I'm an alcoholic. I've got enough problems." That leads to harder stuff. But that really was the mindset in the 60s is, you could go out and have 3 drinks at lunchtime and come back and do spacecraft. That would be fine. But God help you if you smoked a joint at night or anything. And I'm not endorsing either lifestyle. I'm just saying that was the mindset back then. Mm-hmm. And Robert has to help me with the history. What president put an end to 3 martini lunches?
Wasn't that Nixon? Reagan that did that? Was it? Right? I think that was Reagan that did that. Yeah. It was either Carter or Reagan. I can't remember which one.
Okay, maybe it was Carter because Reagan was a Republican, and he probably would have said, "Well, not taking my 3 martinis," but it was part of the business day. It really was. Anyhow, alcoholism was a lot more accepted than smoking a joint. Mm-hmm. And this is something Robert has to deal with me all the time is I'm like a kid with a bright, shiny ball or something. I get going and suddenly I'm way over here. And but we were talking about what we were going to have for dinner, and you're suddenly telling me about something that happened 10 years ago. Yeah, but it was wasn't it? Yeah, but we still.
What I'm trying to say is that we had really good, ribs. That's what I had. I took 10 minutes to talk about something else, but I really want to talk about ribs.
Yeah. Oh no, we do that all the time on this show, anyways. So don't worry.
Yeah. We always seem to like start off one place and end up 30 miles in the opposite direction.
Okay.
Well, one thing I do, I think that I kind of want you to touch on before we kind of wrap it up was the because there is a controversy with Captain America as a character, with him wearing the American flag. Which, if you're thinking in today, thinking about that, it's like, oh, how cool is that? Like, how patriotic, because we have a bunch of people, spitting and cursing at the American flag, trying to burn it, give it the finger. And so seeing someone like, back then, Peter Fonda, like, oh, wow, that's cool. Someone's wearing the American flag. It's acceptable today, but it was very controversial back in '69.
People in my era still consider it grossly disrespectful to the flag to wear it on your back, to paint your motorcycle that way, to sew it on your jeans as a patch. But especially in that era, it wasn't, you weren't a patriot, you were disrespecting the flag. The good soldiers had gone and fought for our freedom, and damn it, you're disrespecting the flag. And you long-haired hippie, get a haircut, get a real job, and go join the military before then you'll change your. And that was widespread, really was. So yeah, it was. You might look at it and think, wow, that's so cool and so patriotic. How could you not love him? No, he was a hippie who was disrespecting it. One more thing I wanted to say real quick, because God knows I don't like to talk. Last night we were talking about the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
I had a great Peter Fonda quote, but I had it out of the wrong movie.
Yeah.
It is actually out of The Wild Angels, where he's saying, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. We want to be free to ride. We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time. That's what we want to do. And I was waiting for that scene, and I'm going, where does that come from then? Because that was way too much script for me to dream up.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm glad you were able to find. Well, I'm glad you were able to find it, not just thinking about it in your head, coming up with your own monologues and dialogue for movies.
No, those voices, they say something totally different. But it's out of Wild Angels. But it was, they were considered anti-patriotic with their long hair, because clearly they hadn't been in the war. And that was, right there in the Vietnam War era. And there was a lot of animosity. And as the tide changed, it was weird. First, we were hating the people who didn't go to fight. And by the time we realized how wrong the Vietnam War was, the soldiers were coming home. And damn it, we hated them for being over there fighting. And so the soldiers had a rough time. So that was just a sucky war. Any way you look at it. But yeah, it was a different time. And yeah, I definitely wasn't riding a motorcycle in '69. But I was infatuated with them already. And here I am, just not shy from being 69 years old. I'm still infatuated with them.
So, right.
And there's a famous Harley shirt, if I have to explain, you wouldn't understand. So it is a real, every time you throw a leg over and twist the wick, it's a big feeling of freedom. And that's what it's about. We want to be free, wherever that freedom takes you. Hopefully not to be Easy Rider.
Yeah, no.
That's personally not how I want to exit the world.
No, I don't want to exit the world that way either.
Yeah.
Same for me.
Any other last thoughts on Easy Rider, American Graffiti before we call it quits?
Do we need to rate American Graffiti?
We already did. We already rated American Graffiti.
I'm sorry. That's all I've got.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Let's do our
Fair
ratings for each. Do you want to start us off with rating, Dad, for Easy Rider?
Probably a 4.375.
I see it. Now I see where you get it from now, Robert.
Man, it could have ended so much stinking better.
Again, I feel the same way. Titanic.
You 4.3, 4.25, whatever your scale is broken down to.
Yeah. Now I'm not gonna quite give it as a technical score as my dad did. I'm gonna give it a 4 just because there is a lot that I do like about the film, but man, that ending just gets me. I've seen it probably 2 or 3 times, and it's just you're always like thinking like it's gonna end differently this time, and it doesn't, and it kills you every time.
Right. As for me, I'm gonna give this a 3.5. Bruce, I know you're hating me right now. I was like, get out of here.
You probably ride a Honda.
Well, I mean, I'm like, I know you must hate my guts right now, Bruce. But,
no, it's different things to all people, and there are a lot of people I wouldn't even suggest them seeing it. It's not their lifestyle. It's some of the cinematography and the film styles, the artsy fartsy stuff. I look at it and go, you could have done without this. Just give me back the 4 hours chasing through Mexico without flashbacks and the whole cemetery scene. I didn't get much out of that. So no, I get 3.5.
Because that's really like what I'm dinging it for. Just like kind of like the abrupt way that they just drop us into this movie, but then also that kind of and I've been to art school, so I've seen my fair share of really crappy art films, and that whole cemetery thing was very reminiscent of the stuff that I watched while I was in art school, and it's like ugh. So my rating is also kind of takes into account of like some of the technical things, not necessarily the artistic or like the story, because I thought this was a great story and very compelling characters, and yes, it was really kind of disheartening to see how it all ends for these characters that you've come to kind of root for.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe not like them, but maybe root for them.
Yeah. 2 great classics that have a lot of similarities and kind of I like both films a lot for different reasons, and it was really fun just being able to because I ended up actually watching it with my dad, rewatching them for this review, and just had a lot of fun conversations talking about the films, learning about them, and getting ready for the review.
Yeah, no, this was really fun. I really enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed talking with you, Bruce, and actually having someone who was alive at the time when like this these movies dropped, and having like certain connecting experiences, particularly like with American Graffiti and like the whole like cruising culture. Yeah, it was very informative.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. It was a lot of fun being here. Thanks, Robert, for having me on. And, so I get my royalty check within 7 days or so.
Yeah.
You could talk to Robert about that.
Okay. No. Yeah, no, it was fun, and like Robert said, he and I watched a couple of the movies with some others,
Mhm.
and it was fun. I think he learned a little bit about, even though I've been his dad for a long time, he learned a little bit
All his
more
life.
about, yeah, interesting. So it was good. It was real good. Hopefully, I didn't hog the screen too much. I'm sure you'll edit it down and make it look professional.
Oh no, it was great. It was great. Having all that information and all the all the knowledge and experience that that you brought to the movies. It was great. You had the most screen time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm able to switch it back from kind of like the three of us to just like individuals, and yeah, you took up most of the time.
I do that.
No, but it was great. No, it was great.
Okay, real good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Fun being on.
All right. That's the episode for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday, sometimes live at 8:00 ish. Don't forget to follow us on our various. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't forget to check out the other shows that we have. Circle of Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Robert's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias: Twitter @PodcastCOJ and Instagram @Circle of Jerks Podcast. With all that being said, we thank you again, and we'll see y'all next time.
Out.